Hi, Taurus. Welcome to your reading for the end of July and the beginning of August, and welcome to my channel. So, Taurus, I want to begin by saying thank you for being here and supporting my channel and supporting my readings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to remind you that this is an overall reading that is not going to resonate with everybody. As far as whether this reading is for you, just pay attention to how you feel, because I like to use the principles of the law of attraction when I do these readings. And lastly, my purpose when I do these readings is not to fortune tell. It's not to tell you the future. The future, I believe that you make it by knowing who you are. Not just as physical being, but also as an energy being. So when I discuss the oracles and the tarot, I like to also keep in mind the energetic aspect of it, because we live in a reality that is dual in nature. So, we're normally focused on the physicality of it, but I personally learned that when you understand the energetic aspect of things, you have a better control of making changes without needing to work so hard or using a lot of your energy. So when I do these readings, my purpose is to, one, is look at your vibrations, but also help you see what are the energies available to you during this cycle that can benefit you. And it's kind of like closing the gap between the physical world and the energy world. All right? Okay, Taurus. So Taurus, to me, you're a special sign. Now, I have to be honest, all signs are special. But the question is whether we know what makes us special. Because from an astrological perspective, we're going to hear, somebody under the sign of Taurus is like this, like that, right? We have all this criteria that describes personalities based on the sign and the houses that, the sign rules. So, when I look at your sign, you come with the element Earth. And you're a bull. You represent a bull. Interesting, right? Taurus in Latin is bull. And it's a very masculine force. So it's representing the masculine aspect of creative energy. We have creation and creativity. So we have two energies that are one, but when they start dividing itself, one becomes feminine and masculine. And then we have the elements, and we have two elements that are feminine and two masculine. And we're going to see this repetition throughout our universe of how these forces, they can divide themselves into feminine and masculine. Okay. So with you, Taurus, as a sign, you represent the masculine aspect. But the celestial force that rules your sign is very feminine. And as I said, you represent the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. And it's important to remind ourselves, especially in moments where we are struggling with any particular situation in our lives, to remind ourselves that as human beings, we represent that, the beginning and the end. That we represent also the archetypes of the divine forces, the masculine and the feminine. And that's a very powerful thing to know and to remember. Now, as a Taurus, you also represent constellations and stars. And some of the oldest one in our cosmos, I don't know if you're aware of that, Taurus. It has a lot to do with Pleiadian energy. Have you guys heard of Pleiadians? The Pleiadians? It's a constellation that is also known as the Seven Sisters. And in Australia, in Central Australia, we have tribes of Aboriginals that have legends and myth about this star system, this constellation of the Pleiadians. And it's a very interesting story and myth. I am the kind of person that I believe that myth are part of our history and evolution in time. But over time, because, we've been taught to focus in a particular way in this physical world, we've kind of see those stories as like, oh, whatever. But right now, in the way that we're changing and transforming ourselves as a collective, we're paying attention to those stories a little bit more. And we're realizing that they're part of our evolution. So the story of the Pleiadians in the constellation of Taurus, according to the original people of Australia, is that they intermingle with humans. And, there's a whole story about the seven sisters and how they came to Earth. And they share the genetic material with with the humans. And that's one of our strands in our genetic codes. It also represents the heart center. So the Pleiadians is a very heart center energy. And that's special. That's very special to know, Taurus. Now, Taurus rules the second house. And the second house is to do with, has to do with our wealth. From a physical perspective, is our money, our wealth. But from a vibrational one, is talking about your own personal wealth. And we all have one. And everything that we do in our lives is to kind of work towards that potential that we have as energy beings. And my question to you is, are you working towards that potential? Are you aware that you're energy? And as energy, you're a very powerful being. And not until you do what you need to do in order to know that part of you, you're not going to feel whole. And here's the thing, that a lot of the times and a lot of the reasons why we come to listen to this reading is to find out about love, especially if we are looking for love. And we want to hear if the oracle has some good news for you about love. You may be already in love and still feel the absence or the void of love. Or you may just be wanting to find out about other areas of your life. But the energy or the frequency of love is always behind all of that. Everything that we do in the physical world, it's somewhat related to this concept of love. And everything that we feel that we don't have and we want to get, the desire to get it, it does relate to love. And the celestial force that represents your house is that energy of love. Now, for me to just limit Venus into beauty and prosperity and love in the way that we're used to here in the physical world is kind of a shame. Because that life force has no limitations and is the structure of all energies in this physical world. And I like to say these things and I like to share that with you because sometimes we get so physical focus on the situations that we have. And, we're represented by the tarot by, a 9 of swords where there is concern, there is worry, there is loss of sleep because we're in a situation that we don't know how to resolve. And we forget that we're energy beings, very powerful. And given that we have the proper information to know how to work with our life force in this particular reality, keeping in mind the energetic one, that we don't have to get here and feel this way and be this way to find an answer. We would make very different choices, wouldn't we? And the irony about all of this too, Taurus, is that, we come to these readings to find hope. So that the oracle gives us hope into knowing that eventually we're going to get the love that we want, or that the person that we already love is thinking about us or is suffering because they're not with us. It's interesting, right? How we come to this type of instrument to find a certain amount of optimism or motivation to feel better, because we don't know how. We haven't figured out the way of how we can do that on our own. So our habits is, well, I love that person because the way that person made me feel. And I rely on that person or all of those people that I've loved to make me feel what I already have, but don't know how to get it, or how to use it. We don't stop to think that the reason why you feel so much love for somebody else is because that person, all it did was a trigger. It triggered the amount of love that is within you. And now you want that person in your life because of the way they made you feel. And what you don't stop to think that the reason why you felt that way, it was because you allow yourself to tap into all of that energy through somebody else. It's kind of like saying, I need you to give me the permission to tap into something that is mine, but I don't know how to get it. And there is a big difference between a connection when our cup is full and we know how to give ourselves loves, than when we're looking for love through somebody else to feel better, because we ourselves don't have enough to give, or don't have enough to give ourselves. Big difference of energies, Taurus. And we don't stop to think about this. We just want what we want because we have an absence of that, and we want it because we believe that it's going to make us better as soon as we get it. And then when we get it, we see that over time we start feeling bad again because it's not consistent. And now we're miserable. We don't know what to do. Or we want to escape a situation because it doesn't feel very good. And we're constantly depending on our side sources or resources to be able to feel good. And what we haven't stopped to think and question is whether I can, on my own, give myself the level of love that I desire without needing anything or anybody to do that for me. And I'm not saying that I'm against having love and sharing love with somebody. But what I'm saying here is, can we do that with a cup full instead of a cup empty? What can I do to give myself the love that I know I have because I see it and experience it when somebody else that I'm attracted to helps me see it? I see it. It's not that the person is giving you love. You're giving yourself love to yourself and that person. That person is only a button that gets triggered. And the question is, can you do that without having a person there first? Can you fill your own cup without needing an outside element? Can we do that? And that's a practice that you can do, because we can. And I'm not talking here about luxuries of going and getting a manicure or going on vacation or going to a spa. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not love. Love has to do with feeling whole, feeling happy with being you and feeling complete without needing anything outside of you to feel that complete. Feeling free, liberated, where you know that you don't depend on anything or anyone to feel happy. You're just happy. And you have a self-worth where you are fully aware of your divinity. You're fully aware that you're drawing energy from the environment that is divine in nature. And there is a difference between the energy that you choose to transmute when it's divine and it hasn't been manipulated, than when you're picking up on an energy that's already been manipulated by a bunch of people and now you're manipulating it again. Big difference. But it requires you to create a state of being that allows you to understand the differences. It requires you to create habits every single day where you're able to spend time with yourself and with your inner being. Because your inner being is not just you thinking about the things that you want. Your inner being is so expansive. It's so big. And what you call personality is basically a bunch of different points of view that you pick at certain times in your life to perceive reality. But that's not just you. That's an aspect and a very small percentage of you. And it is not until you sit in meditation that you quiet your mind that you begin to see and feel more than anything what you're about. And that's when you start realizing that, holy shit, I'm not just one thing. I'm the cosmos inside me. And this is what the oracles are saying here, Taurus. What's available to you as energy right now? Well, astrologically, Sagittarius. The sign of Sagittarius is the sign of freedom. There is no structures or no limitations in the way you feel. It's freedom. It's a very positive sign to have, because out of all the different celestial forces available to us in astrology, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And it's interesting that in astrology, it seems that Jupiter is more benevolent than Venus, because Jupiter always wants happiness, joy. And right now you have a huge influence by Sagittarius, the 9th house of astrology, that talks about the superior mind. This talks about our spiritual food, a focus on, I don't know, the deeper answers or the deeper meanings of life. It's the house of freedom. Good karma. And as you can see, it comes with the element of fire. A lot of strength here. And when you look at the other card from the other oracle, I've used 5 different oracles plus tarot. You have one that is saying, hey, it's time for you to take the lead. And look at this beautiful hand with the fire in the hand. And this is Sagittarius here, all Sagittarian energy. Very positive, very blessed energy to your disposition. It's in your hand. Take the lead. It's impossible for you to take the lead, Taurus, if you don't know what you're doing. If you're confused, or if you're way too focused on the physical reality. And when we look at the tarot cards and I look at your energies, we have 8 cards. And out of those 8 cards, you have 1, 2, 3. And this one, 4, upside down. And I'm going to say that this is half upside down because it's sideways. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this wheel that you see here on the table is moving in a spiral form, not in a circular form. It only gets circular when you focus on your reality in the same things all the time, with the same points of views and the same feelings. It becomes circular. But you create that circulation, that repetition. When you look at energy as energy in a physical reality, it's moving in a spiral form. And it's moving in harmony. Even the energies and the information can be extremely different, but it's harmonious in nature. Because there's the quality of love at its best. The moment that we tap into that information and we start playing with it and manipulating it, because our perspectives sometimes are so limiting that we create polarities. And those are the experiences that we get and we learn from. But ultimately, we get experience enough that we start realizing that we're the ones who are manipulating that energy. We're the ones that are creating the chaos. And we also have the opportunity to harmonize it as well. And that's what the other oracle is saying. You can take the lead. However, you need to know what balance is. And in this particular situation, it's talking about the archetypes. Your divine feminine with your divine masculine. It's within you. Look at how beautiful this card is. Your head with your heart. Sometimes the head says, no, let's go this way. Let's go left. And the heart is saying, no, let's go right. And we create a dispute between our head and our hearts. And the head gives you all kinds of reasons why the heart is not right. And unfortunately, the heart, all it does is feel. And the instincts come through the heart and says, hey, this way, I'm not going to explain it to you, but I just know, and there is an inner knowing that it's all around that says, let's go this way. But we start reasoning and analyzing and overly analyzing, and all of a sudden we're projecting all of these energies to the heart, and now we're confused. And then long term, we're in trouble. We're worried, we're concerned, we're lost, confused, we're afraid, our ego then comes in. And it's kind of like having a reunion where all the people that are talking are not the ones that can resolve the problem because they don't have the level of authority to do it. But they're the ones that are screaming. The same thing is happening here. So our minds sometimes create all kinds of confusions where our operating system get out of whack. And when your systems are out of whack, your heart center is closed. And Taurus, in that moment, you have no clarity, nor you're functioning in a way that you can receive information. You understand that? When you're feeling like this, or feeling like 5 of Cups, or running away from a situation, or, stuck, because 6 of Swords upside down, we're stuck. And we have 2 6s here talking about the lovers, and we have 2 7 here talking about the Chariot. To me, the Chariot is the card that talks about victory, triumph. And the lovers, love, but it's also about harmony, balance. And that balance, Taurus, always begins within ourselves. So what does the Oracle suggest when we are so confused and we need to make a decision? Because we have 2 major arcanas here. Well, we have 3. Overall energy is the world, and the world is saying, hey, it's time to close this cycle. But we cannot make a decision because we don't know what to do. We have the moon. And it's interesting because Venus is very connected to the moon, and so is Taurus. And right now we're going to have Leo moon. The moon is in Leo. the house of our passions, our heart. And the moon, especially when it comes next to somebody like this, it could be affecting the person in such a way that this person can feel very, very confused and very negative, to a point that can become depressed. But the moon, it also says that there are things that you don't know yet. There are things behind the scene that are happening that you may imagine or suspect what they're about, but you're not sure. But it's not good to assume because of what you see in the surface. The moon is also talking about time. Waiting for the proper time, because there are changes that are happening and will happen in this situation, that eventually whatever is hidden is going to come out. Whatever is being repressed is going to come out. So what do you do in the meantime? What is there to do? Well, the oracle is saying, cultivate balance. The health is really important in this particular situation. And this is, could be talking about physical health. But remember, we create diseases from our emotional state. So cultivating worriness, indecisions, hurt, pain, suffering, anger, hate, fears, create diseases over time. So what are the things that you could do, Taurus, to feel more positive and to focus less on negativity? And I know some of you are going to say, well, that's easy for you to say. You don't know what's happening to me. Maybe somebody betrayed me. Maybe I lost all of my wealth. I went bankrupt. Maybe I cannot pay the rent. I'm going to be out of my place, kicked out of my place because and I understand these are extreme situations. And these are very serious situations. But then again, the oracle is saying, yes, I understand. And we understand that. But under that level of stress, you do not have what it takes to receive the information that will allow you to get out of that problem. So your priority is to step back and do the best you can within the circumstances that you have to cultivate tranquility, release the stress, recover from the concern and the worry, focus more on faith and the positive side of life, and then you will get your answer. As long as your heart is closed, you're out of business. When your heart opens up again, and then you're in business again, that's when you are in a receiving mode. And you will get the answer from within, not from the outside. Now, some of you may already know this, just because you have Sagittarius here, and because of the nature of the cards that you have here. So you're being asked to follow your intuition. You already know the answer you seek. You see what I mean? It's within you. It's just a question that you remove all the static that you're getting from your head or from paying attention to the reactions of the other person. So we forget. We get pulled by somebody else's emotions and reactions. And we forget that we're energy beings and that we're a sponge and that we create magnetism through our feelings. We forget all this stuff. And it's very easy to delegate our decisions by asking somebody else, hey, what do you think? Tell me, what should I do? And it's not that, in a given moment, you're able to do that and, get some good advice and apply it into your life and work out for the best. But you wouldn't want to create a type of habit where you do that all the time. It's not good. Because a lot of times when people offer you an advice, sometimes they also offer you their fears and limitations inside that advice. You know what I mean? And just because those people want what's best for you, it doesn't mean that the advice is going to be the right answer for you, right? So you're being led into this idea of existence. You exist for a reason. And I said, hey, you're one of the oldest constellations. You represent Taurus, one of the oldest constellation in our cosmos. And inside those constellations, you represent the Pleiadian energy, which is the heart center. You're next to Orion. It's a constellation system that, we have a very close connection to. But search into Pleiadian energy. There's a lot out there that talks about Pleiadian energy. And right now, in this time of transformation, they're really helping us out. There was a huge ceremony 2 years ago in Uluru. It's this rock in the center of Australia that is also known as Ayers Rock, where the original people did this incredible ceremony to activate these crystals. And some people thought that it was just a myth, that the crystals were not real, and it was just a thing of the indigenous people. Well, apparently they were real. And they were left by Pleiadian beings that have come thousands of years ago. And they had asked that in a time of transformation, in this particular solstice that we had a couple of years ago, that those crystals, in case of need, as we are going through this major shift, to do a ceremony to light them up. But to be able to get them lit up, a lot of us, like a certain percentage of the population, needed to go into meditation and focus and direct our energy towards Ayers Rock, which is a sacred rock for these people. And according to them, that rock is not from Earth. It came from the Pleiadians, or from the constellation of the Pleiadians. So as you could see, there is a lot of prophecies from different tribes around the globe that talks about this time of change and transformation. So it's a very special time. And as you could see, you represent an aspect of the cosmos that is very unique. So for a moment, I have from a different oracle cards, because I want to see if some of these energies that are coming out, or in the way that the spiral is moving, what are the energies that are going to be the same. Okay? And here's what came out. So as I said before, you had 2 6s and 2 7s, talking about the Chariot and talking about the Lovers. When we have repetitions like that in numbers and in cards, it's basically saying that in the way one person is behaving, the other person is reacting and responding to that behavior, but is mirroring back the attitude of that person. And 2 people here are very stuck because they both want to be right, and they want to be acknowledged, and they want to be considered and valued, right? Self-worth comes in. But no one is really making an effort to be the bigger person and say, you know what, we're not getting anywhere. We're not going to win this way. Nobody wins in this particular, energy with this type of behavior. So how can we move forward and transcend our own insecurities, our own pain? What kind of agreements can we make? I mean, maybe you can make agreements of continuing together, or maybe you cannot. But it requires 2 people to act a little bit or behave a little bit more mature and not be so caught up in their emotions and in the bickering and the back and forth and, constantly bringing back the past into the present moment. I mean, at some point you have to let it go. Or otherwise, the energy becomes circular. Is it because the energy is like that and behaves like that? No, you're creating that. Those repetitions. So here, in the way the energy is flowing, it's now bringing us 2 major arcanas. So we have 3, now it's 2. We have to keep in mind that the energies or the oracle is saying, hey, it's time to close this cycle. So this has been going on for a while. We need to close the cycle. We need to make a decision. But we're not in a position to do that. The two people or the situation, the people involved are not in a position to do that because they don't know what kind of decision to make. I want to go or should I stay? We're kind of in this dilemma of whether I should move on or should stay. And the cards is saying, well, there's only one way out right now in this particular situation, and that is to step back, regain a sense of balance, release the stress, open up your vehicle and your systems, and to spend some time alone as the Hermit. And it has come out twice. So you have the Hermit here, and the Hermit is looking at the Sun. So we need to search for clarity. We first have to work within ourselves. So we have to internalize our focus, release the concern, the fear, and the worries, and find clarity. And look at your existence. Look at this card. It's beautiful. So we need this time to ourselves. There is love here. You need to ask yourself if there is enough love between the two of you. And as I said, we have this idea and this habit that because we don't know how to cultivate our own love, to find love outside ourselves. And if our cup is half empty or completely empty, we can pretend, Taurus, for a little bit that we can love somebody and we have a lot of love to give, which we do. But if we don't know how to cultivate self-love, believe me, before you know it, there's going to be problems in paradise. Because no one can, for a long time, be consistent enough to provide you with the type of love that you need in order for you to feel good with yourself. Even if a partner is willing to work with you, it is not anybody's responsibility to help you feel love. That's something you need to learn on your own. And when you lay that responsibility onto somebody else, because you make me feel so fucking good. The passion. And now you have all these expectations. That person made me feel so good. I need to have them in my life. That's a huge responsibility to take. It's funny because this reminds me, last year I went to visit Florida. And I was checking the area as a possibility to move there. And I remember I went to this bar, a local bar where a lot of the locals, they go and play music. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of single men around my age, 50s, 60s, 40s there. And I started talking to a few at the bar. And one of the things that was consistent with these men, there were men that were pretty stable, financially stable, retired, trying to have a good time. But the biggest complaint was, it wasn't about being in a partnership with a woman. In this particular case was, men. Okay. I'm not saying that women don't feel the same way. But their complaint was that the reason why they were rather, instead of being in a relationship, they would rather be alone, was because a lot of the women were expecting them to make them happy. Like they were struggling with women. They were attracting women that had this expectation that besides them taking care of the women, security-wise, that they also needed to make them happy. They were willing to be the provider, but they were not willing to take that level of responsibility because they're like, I don't know what that means. But we don't think about those things. We just think about the excitement of meeting somebody and feeling good with that somebody. And sometimes in the websites I see profiles of people talking about, I'm looking for somebody who's fun, who makes me laugh, who look at the lighter things in life. And it's like, what makes you feel and think that a person is responsible for your own joy? I want to find somebody that is happy and content, of course. But have that expectation that that's the person who's going to keep me happy. That's bullshit. It's bullshit, Taurus. So I see here that, we want to, we're kind of questioning whether we're going to have this new opportunity to try all over again, because there's love here. But I see there is a struggle about agreeing, being in the same page, and being able to follow through to the types of commitment and agreements that we're going to make. So, we have a page crowning the reading, which is kind of a very immature energy. There's not enough fire here to come through and be able to present an opportunity where people can come together and say, hey, we can work this out. And the reason being is because we have to work within ourselves. There is the potential, but the oracle is saying that right now, that is not the way to go. Of course, you do what you think is best for you. But the oracle is saying that we need to become the hermit and find the light. And that's only can be done from within to resolve this issue. It's like this is not just talking about philosophy or talking about pretty words. This is about doing things in your life that allows you to search for your highest truth. As a matter of fact, there's like a sense here of needing to hold back and stand your ground with the Four of Pentacles. This is the Emperor talking here. We have the High Priest, the Emperor, the Strength card, the Wheel of Fortune, the Sun, and and it's interesting because the Sun comes with the number 19, and 9 plus 1 is 10. So it's talking about the Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, and this time around, the cycle is going to be closed up by you going inside and doing the work that you need from within. And that's what I have for you, Taurus. Very good, positive time for you. It's just a matter of you opening up to that. So thank you so much, Taurus. I wish you the best of luck. Until next time.